Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode of the Opinionated thoughtbotter. My name is Svenja. I'm the host of this show, and with me today is Fer. Welcome, Fer. Hi.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Yes, I'm very happy to have you here. Can you tell us what you do at Thoughtbot? Who you are?
Sure. My name is Fernando, or Fer for short. Fernando Perales. I'm based in Guadalajara, Mexico, and I am a developer team lead at thoughtbot. I've been working with them for around. It's gonna be 5 years in October, so it's a long time.
Wow, I just finished my fourth year. Do you say fourth year? Yeah,
Yeah.
year number 4.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had my anniversary in June or July. Oh my gosh, I don't know. It's just well, in the past, at least.
Yeah.
And
That's, that's
so
great.
I'm really happy to have you here today.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. What's the opinion we're going to talk about?
Okay, the opinion that I have is that a consultancy company is better than a product company for a software engineer who's starting their career.
Okay, I like that. Before we're going to start in talking about the why, did you
Mhm.
start at a consultancy company or did you start at a product company?
No, I did actually. I mean, I've been doing professional web development for 13 years, and 12 and a half out of 13 years I have spent in a consultancy company. So this is actually my fourth consultancy company where I've been. So yeah.
Wow. But so you worked at least once at a product company?
Yeah, for 6 months. I got bored. So,
If that's a reason why you believe it's better to start out as a consultancy company?
well, no, probably the main reason is that I think it's very beneficial to get exposure to different kind of projects. Usually, when you join a consultancy as a trainee or junior developer, you or first of all, you usually are assigned a mentor, and this person is gonna be the like very important to help you with your career. Which sometimes in product, when you get into a product company, you are just most of the time expected to join and know what you have to do. You will have a team lead, you have teammates, but probably there's more autonomy expected. Whereas a consultancy company changes from consultancy to consultancy. Also, it depends how often you do rotations in that consultancy. But my case, I think it was like joining a new project every 3 4 months, which again was like, okay, I have enough time to try to learn a lot. But when I moved to a new project, I was exposed to different way of doing things. Probably the way the first client was doing, I don't know, testing was very different from the way the second client was doing that. So you start to form your taste and your criteria about what's best for a product. And also you can adapt, like, okay, this is a different situation compared to my previous client. It is not the same to work for a client who's building their first MVP compared to a client that they already have like a product, like a 10-year-old product. I had the chance to work in both in my first 2 years of career, and among other projects that were very different. So I think that's probably the main benefit, just like you get more exposure to different type of products instead of just working on one for a long time.
Yeah, might agree. I started as a freelancer,
Yeah.
which was, well, it was good because money wise, I
Hmm.
still got money or salary from the German army. So
Hmm.
I had a very soft landing into the tech world, so to say. So I was safe being a freelancer at the
Hmm.
beginning. Um, I wonder, so, and then I started, after being a freelancer, I started at a consultancy company in
Hmm.
Spain. Huge shout out to you, CodeGram. It was absolutely lovely. Love you all.
Cool. Hmm.
Brilliant agency. They don't exist anymore, but it was really lovely.
Cool.
But yeah, I did learn a lot. So because like of what you said, like different clients, different projects. But I also worked at a product company.
Hmm.
I I am not sure if a product company gives maybe a little bit more safety as well. I mean,
Hmm.
because you work on maybe on one team for
Hmm.
longer, so you don't have to start fresh every 3 months or every four
Hmm.
months. So you receive the time to actually form an opinion. What do
Yeah,
you think?
I have seen that at Thoughtbot. Some teammates prefer to have like longer tenure products and working like probably a year and a half, 2 years with the same client. But others, they prefer to have like, hey, let's just move fast and try different clients and learn from different expertise. But consultancy can give you both, which product cannot. So maybe if you're working for a consultancy, maybe they have like, there's usually one or two clients that are the backbone of the company, of the consultancy company, which is the clients that you have been, that the team has worked for a long time. And you can, if you want to work like, okay, I want more exposure to a long-term client, you can probably join that client and spend 1 year, 1 year and a half, 2 years with the same client, while at the same part you're part of a consultancy. So you can, that can change if you want, or you can stay that as long as the project requires you.
Yeah, but yeah, yes, not bad. Yes, and
Mhm.
when you start out as a software developer, I wonder if it's really to improve or to gain, or if it's a better fit, like a
Mhm.
consultancy company over a product company,
Mhm.
because I'm not sure if it's development that is or get increased in a better way, like your knowledge, or
Mhm.
if it, is it more like you said, it's a consultancy, like consultant skills, people skills, communication skills. Yeah, I don't, what I want to understand is
Mhm.
why is it better for a software developer at the beginning of their career to start at a consultancy company?
The part that I mentioned, the technical part, I think it's probably what I see that it's more appealing, that you have different exposed to different code bases. Even every client works differently. They might have like a very formal scrum or agile ceremonies. Other teams, they don't have any of that. You can probably join to like a very large team of engineers, or maybe a small one. Maybe you just work by yourself. So the technical part, I think that can be one benefit, but the other is what you mentioned, the general consultancy skills. You might work with clients that, hey, you don't get together very well, but you have to figure out how to work with them anyways. It's not like just like, oh, I'm gonna stop working with this teammate and that's it. No, it's like, it's your client. You have
Stop
to
it.
you have to make sure that that the product is successful, even though you might not get together with some people. Also, you might have to handle disagreements by yourself. Like probably the client is pushing to do something, but you know that that's not the right way. So how are you going to convince the client to do what, in your opinion and experience, is right?
I love that. So I
Mhm.
have a, not sure if it's a spicy take, but I feel consultancy is sometimes, or conflicts,
Mhm.
difficult conversations are easier to handle when you're in a consultancy
Mhm.
company than in a product company. When you have a problem with a
Mhm.
colleague, with a team, or like if there are any discrepancies, you're on a much safer. Maybe it just like feels because I'm so comfortable at Thoughtbot, but it's just like
Mhm.
you know that you do a good job. And in a product company, you maybe feel like you're one of many and you don't have more expertise. Maybe it's
Mhm.
just like more hierarchy. And when you have a
Mhm.
problem, it's might be difficult, more difficult to resolve the problem
Mhm.
than it is when you have it with a client.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, because we haven't talked about the size of the company or the size of the consultancy. To be honest, I think Thoughtbot is the largest consultancy that I've worked for. When which I think at
Same.
one point we had like 80 people, but for my previous one we were maybe 40, 50. It's very different. And for my company, for the company that I worked for 6 months, I was engineer number 5. so it was like a
Oh,
very
wow.
early stage. So it's way different than if I had joined like one of the big names that are like already established company, which is probably the case that you mentioned. Like, yeah, maybe a company that
Yeah.
it's already been in business for 30 years, they already know how to do things. It's not like you are the first person to come up with a problem. It's probably something that has been solved
Yeah.
so many times and they already know how to handle that. But in the case that it's like an earlier stage, like hey, you're like a founder engineer, that's way different because there's nothing. You have to build a culture with your teammates. So that's also an interesting challenge, to be honest. But
It
probably
is.
that might
Yeah.
be overwhelming. But that might be overwhelming for a junior, and I don't see a junior joining a company as a founder engineer because they don't have experience yet. So.
Something else that just like came to my mind when I
Mhm,
thought about my past experience, and when I was a freelancer, I worked for a very, very small company. I
mhm,
think consists of only three people,
mhm,
and we all were developers.
mhm,
um, and you don't have really someone to, and it was a product company, right? You don't have someone, like you said, like a mentor. You did not have similar issues you had to overcome, or the similar problems. Like, whereas when you are in a consulting company, no matter the
mhm,
size, I believe, you work together, you make it work together as a team,
mhm,
because you have a common goal, like to make another person's or people product a success,
mhm.
right?
Yep.
So that's, instead of when you are at a product company, and I worked at a product company, we had hundreds of developers, so it was really huge. You had your part of where you work at, but you kind
Mhm,
of worked on it more or less alone. Yes, you had colleagues you paired, which was really nice, but it's something completely different in comparison to a consultancy.
mhm,
I don't know. Um, However, in that big product company, people had the ability or the option to switch teams, and
mhm,
with that also to switch tech stack, which is another thing that could become an issue when you are a beginner, like when you are in
mhm.
the early stages of your career as a software developer, when you have to switch technologies, like
Yep.
your Ruby on Rails, and then, I mean, oh no, you would now work on a React Native project.
Mhm,
I do love React Native. So I'm currently working on a React Native project. So, and usually
mhm.
I'm a Ruby on Rails backend developer, but
Yep.
or full stack developer. But yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, that, as you mentioned, I think that really depends because I don't know how easy it is to change stacks on a large company because that involves risk. Also for a consultancy, but probably maybe the risk is something that can be taken. You don't have to think a lot about that, probably. But again, that depends on the size and what you're doing. I remember that I had exposure to, as you mentioned, different stacks also as part of a consultant. Like, hey, maybe I don't know if I'm ready on this one, so I can probably pair with a colleague with that it's working with a different product, and then catch up and try to join that other project. So also again, that depends. People like to. There's people who at the beginning of their career they want to just like, okay, I just want to focus on one thing and be very good at that. Others just want like, hey, I'm still not sure if this is what I want, so probably I might want to have the ability to change things. And it's something that I noticed that happened during my first two consultancies. Like, there's people who like, hey, I want to explore the product manager path. Can I do that? Yeah, I mean, why not? Let's see if you can do it. We'll get you some mentorship, and if you don't like, you can go back to engineering. That's something that product probably that's not going to happen because you have like very limited or very specific roles. And trying to move, yeah, but you can probably move to another team. But also, what if the company has just one stack? It's a different part of the product, but it's still the same code base. Probably the ownership is different. Probably the same toward it's also might be the same. I don't know, depending. It's how big the company is. Probably like very very
yeah,
large companies, they might have like a a lot of independence deciding how each pod or each part of the company works. But when it's like a middle company, it's probably just like, yeah, we have different things, but they work the same way, and they work the same code base.
Was it a intentional decision to start at a consultancy company when you started?
No, not really. When I was about in my last semester of university, I started to see like, okay, what are the companies that I could join? There are, I mean, in Guadalajara, it's one of the biggest tech hubs in Mexico, probably the second besides Mexico City. But there are like, you have a lot of the big names, like worldwide companies. You have Oracle, HP, Intel, those ones, like, and you know that they are pretty much always hiding. But you also we had some emerging consultancies here in Guadalajara, but funny enough, I did not work for my first company was not in Guadalajara. I have to move to another state because that was a company that gave the chance to just graduated people to start a career, which I
Cool.
couldn't find easily on company like in product companies. They are usually more, probably that change right now. I mean, I'm talking like 13, 14 years ago, but probably the change. But I noticed that these small consultancies have to be more appealing to young people because, like, compared to the big names, yeah, probably you're not gonna make as much money. So there's something else that you have to do to attract people, and the way they try to do and it worked. It's okay, let's focus on the younger talent, and yeah, let's bring them to a trainee program for 3 4 months, and then if there's people like very outstanding trainees, we can offer them a first work as junior developers, and then they can build a ladder for probably 5 6 years, which is usually what a 50 60 people company gives you, because you don't have that many roles, and they vet for that and it works. Because definitely there's like a lot of the best Ruby on Rails engineers that I've worked with and I've met, they came from those kind of programs that the small Ruby on Rails consultancies in the country vet on, and it paid off.
That's cool. I'm asking because when, so again, before I was at the army, and
Mm-hmm,
then I did two boot camps. The
hmm
first one was Ruby and Rails, and the other one was about JavaScript. And after the first boot camp,
hmm
I applied at a agency in Berlin, in Germany.
hmm
And I just remember they asked me a question in the interview. So I made the first step. So I submitted my application, the
hmm
form, and they invited me. And then they asked me, so why do you want to work at an agency and not, for example, at a product company? And I
hmm
was like, oh my gosh, I never thought about it. I
hmm
didn't get the job.
No.
I
Yep.
really didn't think. I didn't think about it. The only thing I
hmm
wanted to do was coding. I wanted
hmm
to code, and I wanted to learn, and I wanted to learn from the best. And
hmm
but I also remember that I told them, "Oh, the best favorite jam that I love is Factory Girl back then." And I
hmm
said,
hmm
so that was my very first interview as a software developer, and I mentioned thoughtbots jam, which is
Cool.
kind of funny. Yeah,
hmm
but I did not had an opinion about where I
hmm
want to work at.
Yeah, probably in my case, I did not have the same idea that I'm trying to share now, that it is best. It's just like, hey, I have two options. Two of them were, one was a consultancy, was one was product, and I asked to a friend like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on this?" He really encouraged me like, "No, go to the other one. It's you're gonna learn more than in this one that has." I think at that time probably they have like 200 to 300 employees. It was a product company, and the other one was like a smaller. You have the chance to have more impact. That also it's related to what you mentioned, like how much you can change. If let's say if we were to join Amazon right now, how much we can change Probably not
I
a
can
lot.
change everything. Oh, I'm just very confident nowadays.
Oh yeah, there are a
So
lot of things that
I'm
can be
just
changed,
gonna I'm
but
gonna
how
change
many
the
you
name.
can actually change? That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like in practice, like how much impact you can have when you are joining a, I don't know how many thousand engineers you have.
Sometimes I also feel it feels like overwhelming when you are one of many. So that was while I was working at a consultancy, we had a client, and I would really, really remember when I opened their Slack. So we use different Slack channels or Slack teams, and then I saw the development or something like that. It was called the channel, and there was the number 1000, so they had 1000
Wow.
developers, and I was just like, oh my gosh, no,
Hmm.
no, I don't feel comfortable.
Hmm.
The project was okay, to be
Hmm.
honest, but it was also good that I knew it was only temporary, so not for a
Hmm.
long time. I have a question. Do you think it's important that a software developer or engineer, however you want to call them, has or gets experiences in both worlds, like consultancy and product? Or do you think it's
Mm,
sufficient just like to be in a consultancy?
no, I think it depends on the career path you want to pursue. Because, for example, something that I have to admit that it's better in a product company, especially like a very mature product, is that you get to live with the choices you made in the past. So if there's a bad abstraction you created in 2, 3, 5 years, that's probably gonna come and bite you. Maybe in a consultancy, it's just like maybe you don't spend as much time on the code base to learn exactly how that affected.
Oh, maybe the
Um,
client will come back and tell you fix it.
Probably they'll do, or probably there will be another engineer, like because you don't know how much if you're gonna work with them again. Because usually that's what happened. Sometimes a client goes back to the same consultancy, but something's for budget reasons or something else. They will hire someone else because that's also why they went. That's why they decided to go with a consultancy because they didn't want to depend completely on this group of people. It's just like, yeah, I want to get this job done and then move on and let's see. Another thing that can give you that I think it's hard to get just working on a consultancy is that there are some kind of clients that you are not going to get exposed on consultancy work, and it's like large clients. They usually they do all the development in house. Sometimes they might bring a couple of consultants for something very specific. I think that was the case for thoughtbot. We have to work with a large company, like large, because they didn't have like the bandwidth to. The kind of work was what they call the keep the lights on work. It's just like pretty much we have a system that probably we're gonna deprecate, but we need someone to keep an eye and do maintenance work while we focus on other things, and we don't want to waste our bandwidth on that. That's why we're bringing consultants, but it's like very large systems. I'm talking about like that is the kind of product that has like millions of requests per second. And yeah, learning about that's also useful because maybe you eventually will have to implement that, but probably in consultancy you won't get access to those very large clients. So depends on you, like if you want to probably go more towards like an architect or VP of engineering, probably spending more time on product. It's going to help you because it's going to give you the expertise about how a product works long term. But consultancy, it's going to give you the opposite. It's probably like, hey, get exposure to a lot of engineering talent, how they work. Also different product markets, because you usually
Yes.
don't work in the same kind of product. I don't know. I have worked like, I mean, I have done fintech, e-commerce, like custom platforms with
Health
social media
tech.
digest.
Yes.
Yeah, like,
Yes.
and that's very interesting because like each you get to learn about like different kind of products. But if you go to a product company, you can change themes, you can do whatever you want, but it's still the same main
It's one
product.
product. Hmm.
Duolingo can do like a lot of things, but it's mainly a platform to learn languages
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I agree.
math and chess and music. But it's like it's learning. It's not gonna do other thing probably. Uh,
Yeah.
so depends on you, but my suggestion, and that's why I bring my opinion about what it's probably best for early level engineers. Try consultancy. I think probably it's gonna give you in maybe in 2 years you will have like exposure to 3 4 clients, and then you can decide, okay, this is the kind of product that I like. I can move to a product company. Or if you still love the consultancy work, which is my case. I mean, I don't see myself at a product company at this point. It's really hard to me to think about that, because there's something about being a consultant that brings me joy. And
Same.
it's
I like
probably
it.
it's probably the part that maybe clients have some bias about consultants, but probably they put more attention about what you say compared to like just regular engineer, because they are bringing you because you're the expert, and you're probably not a very cheap expert. So if you say, hey, this is the best way to do, you usually get less pushback compared like in product, because you have to convince way more people about your idea being the best to implement. So
Yeah, I like that. I I like both worlds, but I do like the variety of consultancy,
mhm,
and that I also really like to have discussions and to
mhm,
hear other people's opinion, and I value, like I really like design sprints and where you talk about
mm,
through ideas and see where it started and where it goes to, and it's I really like to see the whole flow, and I think that's quite often you miss at a product company because the product is there usually if
mhm,
it's not a startup, right? So
mhm,
it's but yeah, I do like communicational discussions and challenges.
mhm.
So I think I you might be exposed to more of these at a consultancy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. So
Yeah.
that's my
uh,
opinion. Mhm,
Thank you so much, Fer. We are at time. Time flies, like
mhm.
always. Thanks so much for joining today. And is there any things that you want to say that we didn't discuss? Or
No, I mean, thanks for the invite. I'm very glad to be back again. You can
yes,
watch the previous episode and all the previous episodes. Definitely, they are worth watching. So yeah, thanks so much. And
thank you.
again, consider the consultancy work, especially for entry level. I think you can that can bring you some insights about how different products and companies work, and then you can make a choice if that's what you want, or then you can move to a product once you have tried a lot of things.
Yeah, and let us know in the comments. We're always happy to receive comments. Let's continue the discussions there. Did you start in a consultancy or in a product company? What do you think? And then see you next time at the Opinionated Thoughtbotter. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.